What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we're going to be comparing last year's Samsung Galaxy A25 to the new A26. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush. This new A26 is not much of an upgrade. In fact, I would argue that it's actually more of an outright downgrade, which is sad to say. But when we break things down here, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. Here's the gist of it. While this new A26 does have a fresh new design, with a bigger screen and more premium build, the important stuff, like the display specs, the cameras, and the actual processor and performance, if you live in Latin America, that was all left unchanged. The upgrades don't make the phone noticeably better in any way, just kind of different. And Samsung also literally took away a few things, like the secondary loudspeaker for your out loud listening pleasure, and the headphone jack for your on-the-go listening that I know made a lot of people upset. Now, don't get me wrong, I do still think this new A26 is a decent overall value. It's a better device in a lot of ways compared to the lower tier A series phones beneath it, and it could be a nice upgrade if you have something much older. And maybe that's the point. I mean, no one really upgrades every single year anymore, but it's still hard for me to understand why Samsung made the various changes they did on this new A26, because there likely were a lot of A25 owners who were looking forward to getting something new, and I think most, if not all of them, won't be choosing this A26 as that replacement. If you do end up getting this A26, or any other new smartphone without that trusty headphone jack, it's not the end of the world. In fact, Skullcandy, this video's sponsor, just launched a brand new pair of fun and stylish earbuds featuring Sound by Bose that deliver a great high-fidelity listening experience, including ANC, without breaking the bank. These are the new Method 360 ANC. And for just $99, here's what you get. A super cool slide-out charging case that clips onto anything, fully customizable earbuds with replaceable ear tips and ear hooks to ensure the perfect fit, and a listening experience that rivals even some $200 or $300 buds. These fast pair to your phone with Bluetooth 5.3 for easy setup, and you can find the full suite of features within the Skull IQ app. Active noise canceling, or ANC, is the big feature with these. The buds basically block out the world around you so you can enjoy your music, podcasts, or whatever you like without the people, traffic, or other hubbub around you killing your vibe. You can make adjustments to your tunes with the EQ presets and custom EQ adjustments found within the app. There's effortless on-bud controls for playing and pausing music, activating ANC, and accepting or rejecting phone calls. And there's a hybrid 4-mic system to ensure your voice is crystal clear for those calls or your voice memos. You can also listen to these buds for a long time, up to 32 hours total, paired with the charging case with ANC on, or up to 40 hours total with ANC off. And when it's time to recharge, you can do so quickly. 10 minutes in the case yields you 2 more hours of listening. And did I mention Skullcandy partnered with Bose for some best-in-class sound? Yeah, these buds really sound great. Excellent clarity and thumpin' bass, all perfectly optimized for any music taste. These are all premium features for a premium listening experience without compromise and without that over-the-top price tag. Check out the new Skullcandy Method 360 ANC earbuds at the links in the video description below. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Yes, the new A26 is slightly larger than last year's A25. It's taller, it's wider, but that doesn't yield you any more usable screen real estate. Going from 6.5 inches to 6.7 inches just ensures you have to buy a new case for your new phone, and that's about it. In fact, I'm a little bummed to see the thick bottom chin and notched selfie camera return yet again to this A26, since it's such a dated design now. I mean, are the bezels overall a bit slimmer? Sure, by a tiny bit. But for the most part, the A26 looks the exact same from the front as the many A20-somethings before it, just feels a little bigger in your hand. Around back, I'll give Samsung a little credit here. The A26 now has a Gorilla Glass Victus Plus rear cover. That's a step in the premium direction, and an upgrade from the all-plastic back cover on the A25, which definitely looked and felt more cheap. And actually, the front of the A26 is Gorilla Glass Victus Plus as well. though to me, the difference between that and whatever glass covered the display on the A25 is a bit less noticeable. The frames of both phones are an identical material, plastic, though it never really felt that plasticky to me. There's no other change in the form factor here. The only other noticeable difference, of course, is the completely new camera module setup on the A26. Now, this aligns with the higher tier A36 and A56, but to be honest, this isn't something I'm a huge fan of. For one, it's very obvious now what phone this is. Last year's A series looked close enough to an S series that you could fool some people. And at even a glance, all I see here is that big black bulbous camera module now that really stands out, visually at least. It's not really any bigger or thicker physically, just a really odd change, especially since, spoiler alert, Samsung didn't upgrade or otherwise change the camera hardware at all. They did add an official IP67 water and dust resistance rating though to this A26, so that's something. It should be a little tougher. And taking a look around at all their other bits, there's a few more similarities. Thankfully, Samsung did keep dual physical SIM and micro SD card support on this new A26. The same as with the A25 last year. I still appreciate this. I know a lot of other people do too, and you only have two configuration options for these phones to choose from, 128 or 256 gigabytes of storage, the same as prior years. So being able to add a bit more storage space yourself might be a necessity. On the right side, I'm pretty sure these are identical volume buttons and power buttons that are both fingerprint sensors as well. Samsung, to my knowledge, changed nothing here, which is fine. The in-display sensor is still reserved for the A30-somethings and A50-somethings again this year, and both phones have seemingly the same face unlock. Up top, just a microphone hole on each phone, and down at the bottom, there's actually two big changes. You'll see the USB-C port for charging, of course, alongside the main single loudspeaker on the new A26, and a big old blank space where the headphone jack used to be, which you can still see on last year's A25. I don't know if Samsung just hates us listening to stuff on our phones, but these changes here are awful. I guess the removal of the headphone jack was inevitable, but according to my comments section, it's still something that's irked a good number of people. And removing the secondary speaker on the A26 it's also just ridiculous. I mean, how much could that have possibly cost? The out loud listening experience is definitely worse because of that. Now, as far as the actual viewing experience, aside from the 0.2 of an inch size difference, the actual screen specs on both these phones seem to be the same. You get a Super AMOLED panel on each that offers the full HD 2340 by 1080 resolution, just with slightly different PPI counts due to the size discrepancy, and both displays can run at 120 Hz refresh rate. Now, I've often said that this trio of screen features, AMOLED, 1080 resolution, and 120 Hz, is the right combination for any budget or mid-tier phone. And I still stand by that. While Samsung didn't upgrade the screen on this A26, I don't think they outright needed to, especially considering this phone's price point and its placement within the A series this year. However, like I said at the start, I do wish Samsung would just finally ditch this very dated screen design. And I suppose if one thing could have been upgraded, it would be the brightness. If the Gorilla Glass Victus Plus on the A26 is supposed to help with glare, I'm not seeing that, and I still think some folks might have trouble with outside viewing. I don't see any difference with brightness in any capacity. Fortunately, the viewing experience wasn't bad last year, and it isn't bad this year on this A26. I just kind of wish Samsung would be more keen on continually taking, say, last year's A30-something display and putting it on the A20-something. I mean, these A20-somethings have actually been the same for multiple years in a row now, so I feel like it's inevitable we see a more drastic upgrade to the viewing experience, but alas, not this year. So now let's get into the confusing bits, the internal specs and performance. And some of you might feel that this extensive explanation I'm about to offer is unnecessary, but hear me out, I promise it's important. Technically, this new A26, for almost everyone in the world, is going to be powered by the Exynos 1380, the same chip from last year's A25, which, hey, totally makes sense. It's a great move and a decent upgrade. If you're in Latin America, though, the A26 there is actually just powered by the Exynos 1280, the same exact chip as what's inside this A25 from last year. So literally no change at all, no upgrade. And the reason I say that is because aside from informing my Latin American audience, you may also come across quote unquote factory unlocked or global or international A26s on Amazon or eBay or other third-party retailers that are actually the Latin America or LATAM version and not immediately realize that that's what that phone is. Whether you live in Latin America or not, you need to be 100% sure you know which A26 you're buying online or in person, or else you'll end up like me and get the Latin America A26 that's powered by, the exact same processor as what was in the A25. Hence why these Geekbench scores are basically identical. Here's last year's A35 with the Exynos 1380, so you can see the score differences. And I'll get myself a regular A26 at some point, of course, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Now, to be honest, I do think that jumping from the Exynos 1280 to the 1380 is a worthy upgrade. Unless you're just anti-Exynos to begin with, then sorry, none of these phones are for you. But with almost everything else staying the same or getting worse on the A26 compared to last year, you can at least know you've got yourself a more powerful, more capable smartphone. Well, mostly everyone. And you also get Android 15 and One UI 7 out of the box on this new A26, which at this point in the Android 15 lifecycle shouldn't be an accomplishment, but Samsung, for whatever reason, is having a pretty hard time releasing their One UI 7 updates across their various devices right now, and I have no idea when the A25 will actually see its update. So you have that going for you on this A26, all the One UI 7 goodies, and you also have intelligence. Now, with any new Samsung phone, Samsung is continuing to push AI in some capacity, but on these A series, it's actually not Galaxy AI, it's just intelligence or awesome intelligence. And there's just like a handful of AI adjacent features that grace this phone to give you a taste of Galaxy AI that would otherwise be reserved for the flagships. Really, I wouldn't normally go on and on about software differences between two phones like this because, eventually they'll be on the same updates, but right now at least, I guess there's a slight advantage in getting a new device since Samsung's One UI woes continue, but I'm not sure that's an outright reason to get this A26. But I'll give you one other thing to consider. If you do get this A26 today, you're guaranteed 6 additional Android updates, while the A25 was only promised 4, and 1 is I guess used up or about to be used up whenever Android 15 and One UI 7 hits this phone. So this A26 is now a potential 6-year play. It could last you twice as long as the A25 from right now if you do care about software updates. It's something to consider. Something else I barely even think about is battery life. Both these phones are powered by the same size 5,000 milliamp hour battery and are charged up at the same 25 watt wired speeds. No wireless charging was added here, and no other outright battery upgrades or improvements that I'm aware of have been talked about. And even taking into consideration the potential processor difference or better optimization via One UI 7 now, I just don't know of any huge difference either way when it comes to battery longevity. Finally, while I already harped about the physical camera difference on this A26 being a no from me, I think it's important to stress that aside from its new look, the hardware hidden underneath is the exact same as what's on the back of last year's A25. Both these phones have a 50 megapixel f1.8 aperture main lens, an 8 megapixel f2.2 aperture ultra-wide, and a 2 megapixel macro for up-close pictures. On top of that, the 13 megapixel selfie cameras don't seem to be any different either. Within the camera app, I see about 95% of the shooting modes and features being the same. Obviously, the setup is a little different between One UI 6 and One UI 7, but you'll see that mostly everything else, aside from an extra shooting mode or setting here and there on the A26, is about the same. There's not a single outright addition, upgrade, or new shooting feature that was highlighted or added to this A26. It should come as no surprise that the pictures also basically look about the same too. I mean, is there some color balance difference? Yeah, a little bit, but you could make the colors look identical. The photos themselves, the detail, the depth of field, the actual look, and the camera's capabilities, it's all exactly the same. Now, I wasn't necessarily expecting a major camera upgrade on the A26, I guess, but it's odd to me that they redesigned the camera module for whatever reason and drew everyone's attention to it, but otherwise left the hardware and the features unchanged. Just doesn't really make a ton of sense to me, at least. So here's the bottom line. This new A26 is different from last year's A25 in that it's a smidge bigger, it has an all-glass back panel, and it has a better processor inside, unless you buy the Latin American model for whatever reason. It's worse in that you lose both the headphone jack and the dual speakers. I don't know why. And to be completely honest, it's not really better in any actual way. If you have last year's A25, I don't see there being any real reason to upgrade here. And I'd be surprised if any A25 owners actually did upgrade. If you have something older or something different, this new A26 is fine, I guess. But the A25 is cheaper now. The A36 and A56 are both way better. I just feel like there are plenty of other options to choose from that aren't the A26. But what do you guys think? Did I miss something for this A26? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.